Welcome back to Northwest Elite Spirit, the channel you come to train your mind, body, and spirit. I'm Coach Brian. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do that now and make sure to ring that notification bell to stay up to date on all of my newest releases. This is how I stay shredded at 47 or 47 and shredded. Now, to help you understand how I've done it, I have to start from the beginning. So I'll start with the long story and then I'll share with you guys how you can do this too. I've lived like this for a very long time. As the title says, I'm 47 years old and I've been living like this since I was about 13 years old. So that's 34 years. Even before that, as a little kid, I always remember being very active. Running, climbing, trying martial arts, reading, writing, inventing games, poking around, and exploring, all the things. I hear my dad was an athlete, but I don't remember that far back. I do remember he had a very large trophy case full of all kinds of trophies, and I do remember that he loved softball and that he was very good at softball. I may have been influenced by him from before I remember, and his DNA is certainly within me. My mom, she comes from a place that always intrigued me. She grew up in a well-forested area and had a giant cedar tree in the yard. And I remember when we would visit my grandparents there, I'd swing and run around in that thing like Tarzan, and you could even get out to some of the larger branches and jump and slide down the branches and have a soft landing on the bottom. I'd also poke around the edges of that property, going out a little further each visit. And actually a lot of my current workout videos and running videos, training videos are done near and around that area. Growing up, there was always some sort of fighting going on around us. For instance, after my mom and dad divorced, my mom had a martial artist boyfriend, and he was a multiple degree black belt in some art that I can't remember. And he was the second baddest dude in our area. He'd fight everyone and win except against one guy. He would fight sanctioned, non-sanctioned competitions, in the dojo, bar fights, house fights, fights at barbecues, everywhere. And he'd also beat my mom. I used to play around with him, very light sparring, and he challenged me to foot races and things. He was a very tall guy. And he'd always win, but I'd give it my all. And through playing with him, I was able to witness myself pull off some interesting feats during sparring and during running. I remember loving to build forts, and I would pilfer or bargain for material and build forts. We lived in this area where the power lines came through in a strip, and tall grass grew up in that strip. And they would come and they'd cut the grass and just leave it. And I'd build big old forts out of all that tall grass. And we had a huge horse chestnut tree, and I'd get all the kids together and we'd play war, throwing horse chestnuts at each other. And one time I remember even convincing everybody to help me pilfer a bunch of plumbing from a nearby repair, and we built like a communication network throughout all the forts. Now that was fun. I've always been into that sort of thing. My mom broke up with that guy and got a new guy, and we moved to a small town. And we got our first nice house, and it had a big yard. One day, my uncle delivered some landscaping material, like cinder block, small logs, things like this, and he placed them in a large pile at the front of the yard. He was going to do some landscaping for us, but then he just left it there, and it sat. And one day I got tired of looking at it, and I moved it all to the other end of the yard, to the back side of the yard, and tucked it away. Like I said, we had a pretty big yard, and I was just a skinny kid, but scrappy and motivated. Moving that stuff was a challenge. So after moving it all the first time, I loved how it felt working so hard and feeling so strong. So I moved them again, and I started experimenting with how to move them around the yard. It's like lunges with the logs across my back, fireman carry with the cinder blocks, chucking the cinder blocks up over my head backwards as far as I could until I reached the other end, or throwing them like that to the other side of the yard until I reached the other end. And then I started figuring out different ways you can lift cinder blocks, because you got the two holes, right? And you got all these different grips that you could use to lift them. Started squatting with the logs, curls and tricep curls with the cinder blocks, bench press on the end of a stick. All the different angles you could grab a cinder block for all these different exercises. And you can reference my video that from when I tried my 13-year-old workout program, and it's a pretty solid workout program. You can still get very strong doing that. We had a vine maple in the backyard with limbs that held me, and so I could do pull-ups on that tree. My mom got a picnic bench for the yard, and I started figuring out how to use that for workouts. And again, you can see my no gym, no problem workout to see how you can get a really good workout with just a picnic bench. We got oak bunk beds, and I'd grab low and squat those, or I'd grab the slats underneath the top bunk, and different ways to do pull-ups from underneath. We got an above ground pool that I turned into training. I would jump from standing into the pool, or I would sprint and jump as far as I could across the pool. Of course, we've all done the run in one direction and then turn around and fight the current. I use that for training. Use the pool for holding my breath underwater, and even cold water plunges before I knew what they were. The yard was long enough for a good sprint, so I would do sprint intervals. We had an alley, and I'd tie a tire to my waist, and I'd sprint the distance of an alley, about 2 blocks, and walk back and do it again. I remember getting a hold of a bunch of old plywood, old school plywood, so like heavy and durable, and hauling it all into the yard and building this massive maze out of it that you could crawl through in the yard, and returned all that plywood back to where it came from at the end of it. I soon found a friend who would train with me, and he and I got memberships to what was then called the indoor pool. And we'd skip school, eat at his house or my house, and then run to the indoor pool, work out, sauna, hot tub, run home, and eat again. I think the runs were 2 to 3 miles there and 2 to 3 miles back. People ask me when I started running, and it came to me eventually that I did a lot of running going to the pool. We had a big barn in our yard, and it was old, so old that it had like horse and buggy parts in it. And it was very big and made of very solid old timber, and had these huge, giant swinging doors. It'd swing outward, and I would hide out in there and work out alone. Early on, I made fueling up by eating a thing. My house didn't really have a lot of healthy food at all growing up, and I'd eat as healthy as I could at the time. Eventually, as I got older, my mom began getting healthier things for me, and I began being able to get things for myself and began eating a lot healthier. Always drinking lots of water, sharing water. So somebody come over to work out, I make sure we drink water. I go to their house, I make sure I get water. Sharing food and water has been a huge part of this from the get-go. Around that same time, I got a library card and began checking out books on martial arts, stretching, Tai Chi, meditation, ESP, everything I could. I'd read the books and I'd practice. I got a subscription to Men's Fitness magazine, and I'd complete those programs, eating as closely as I could to the diets that they suggested. I'm a guy, I've always had to eat more than a diet for my size suggests. I stopped going to school, and instead of studying, math and social studies, I'd study working out, meditation, reading, art. There was a time at 14 when I began drinking a lot of Old English and smoking a lot of weed, and I did that off and on for like 5 years. I still continued training while I was in that space. I I think being so into training is what saved me from that space. A lot of people went very sideways that I was around at that time. I think around that time I started taking supplements and drinking like protein shakes, and I don't do those things anymore. It's just food, unless you count coffee and marijuana as supplements. As I've gotten older, I've continued building workouts from whatever I have around me. I can use weights, cinder blocks, trees, rocks, body weights, logs, picnic tables, whatever is at hand, I can use to put together a great workout. And I could do the same for you in your household. Whatever you have access to, I can help you build a great workout program around that. I've worked out to get the Bruce Lee V, the Arnold biceps, George St. Pierre's cardio, the 8-minute abs. I've done P90X, Insanity, Taibo, and the list goes on and on. Kids yoga. I didn't really discover being outdoors for recreation until I got laid off around 2008, and I've fallen in love from that. I believe being outdoors so much has been a huge factor in how I stay fit. I do the majority of my workouts outdoors, and I run trails. I still read, I'm still learning, and I'm still writing, still lifting, practicing martial arts. I run ultra distances now. I still meditate and stretch. I still cold plunge, or I work out in the cold. I still find people to train with now and then, and I still make it all up as I go. I've added finding work that involves being outside, gardening, chopping wood, hauling and stacking firewood, construction stuff, landscaping stuff. I'm still putting proper fuel first. I've always been a voracious eater, so I've never really counted calories. Plus, I'm an impossible gainer. I don't get bigger for long. I get faster, stronger, and more endurance. If we train together, I'm making sure we eat. I only work out with people who do the same, so that way it ensures gains for all of us. And I still share water and expect water to be shared. I'm not on what you might call a strict diet. Every once in a while, I get that 6-piece chicken strip basket from Dairy Queen, no soda. Love finding a great burger from some roadside burger shack. I don't do fast food, and I avoid sugar, though I do have sugar sometimes. And steak burritos from El Rey Burros are a mainstay on my menu. I don't train to be 1% better than yesterday, to lose weight, to stay in shape, or even to get shredded. I train because I love it, and it's who I am. I want to stress how much I still love hard work and feeling strong. I think the joy of it all has been the real ticket for me. I believe love is more efficient fuel than hate, so I never hate my training. Though I'm careful not to get consumed by or carried away with euphoria or overwhelming joy. So remember to stay present. So now that's how I've done it, and here is how you can do it too. Food and water. Food is fuel. Eat for the tasks at hand. Counting calories burns calories, or math burns calories. I would suggest that you save that energy for the task at hand. Eat a lot and I don't gain much weight. If I do gain weight, it quickly evolves into more energy, strength, and endurance at the original weight. Attention to how what you eat affects you, to me, is more important than sticking to rigid diets. I suggest you take note of what you eat and how it makes you feel physically, emotionally, and cognitively, or mentally, physically, and spiritually. You can journal this, or you can just take mental note and use this to notice patterns that you might have otherwise missed. Adjust accordingly. Meditation and mental exercises, solitude and silence bring clarity. It's like a soothing mental and spiritual bath where the things that you're clinging to, or the things that are clinging to you, can be washed away. The more you do it, the better you get at it. Don't start feeling yourself or congratulating yourself when you get silence. Feeling yourself is a surefire way to stray away from the task, and the task is silence. If you notice the voice underneath it all, take a deep breath, relax, and listen. If you find the voice talking to other people, remember that the task is solitude. No other people are involved. and we want silence. Eventually, you'll have to learn to let those discussions go and achieve a more complete level of silence and solitude, washing away all the outer voices, washing away any reactions to outer voices. For me, all that strengthens my sense of purpose, or that unique spark that's inside of me. And my spirit being in touch with this could be likened to a very powerful fuel in my observation. It's really potent stuff. Martial arts and bodyweight movements. Using martial arts and bodyweight movements, I'm able to stay strong no matter what. If the gym were to burn down, or if I'm far away from home, I can still put in a solid amount of effort toward bodyweight movement. Running counts as a bodyweight movement to me. They also give me a better understanding out of how to move in the world. Again, don't want to start feeling yourself, because it only gets better with attention. I'm always realizing something new or rediscovering an old realization. Feeling sturdy and balanced keeps me mentally relaxed. There's nothing to worry about, because I know my body has it handled, and it's vice versa. There's nothing to be tense about, because I know my mind has it handled. Lifting weights, sometimes I have to be able to lift something. An emergency may present itself where lifting a lot of weight might be needed. I don't lift heavy necessarily on purpose anymore. I lift, say, heavy bags of dirt, bundles of wood, etc., but not a whole lot of weightlifting. When I do lift weights, I like Olympic weightlifting. I don't try to lift heavy. I lift as much as I can put down without dropping or slamming the weight, and without having to use a rack. This is another area where I'm careful not to start being impressed with myself or motivated by how much weight I'm lifting. It's form, balance, position, mechanics, breath, presence. Still running? When I'm running, I take it slow. That has been the intention from the start, but not always the case. Running is another area where I'm careful not to start feeling myself. The feeling of an efficient run is better than feeding my ego and feeling fast. I get distracted and clumsy when my ego gets involved. Leaning from the ankles and feeling myself fall into the motion, not swinging my arms across my body, but swinging them alongside. For proper alignment, I'm doing Chinmaya Mudra, which also counts as a sensory trigger. You can do whatever mudra comes to you. I'm breathing. My view is not singular. I'm relaxed, and I have a relaxed body, and my mind is present. With me, I get more worn out when the outer voices come, or when I'm talking to the outer voices. I may only notice that I'm talking or hearing outer voices when I sense physical tension. Physical tension for me signals mental tension, and when this happens, I begin my checklist. Do I have my mudra? Do I have my mechanics? Am I breathing properly? How's my balance? How's my lean? How's my gaze? Am I relaxed? Where's my focus? I find work that feeds my spirit. I've become very good at finding work near the ocean, rivers, forests, prairies, mountains, very beautiful places in the midst of nature. If I work during the day, I normally don't train during the day. I look at work and training as the same. So when I'm at work, I'm training. I'm putting in a solid day's work. I practice the martial arts footwork to move around the work site and to gain strong and balanced positions. I practice silence so I can focus, be present, and be safe. I visualize my work. I like doing work where I can see my progress, plant, tend, build, repair, create, move things, dig. You guys can understand this. Still experimenting, so all these points are important, yet I want you to really hear me on the experimentation. Experimentation doesn't mean messing around. You're paying attention, you're testing, you're taking note, and you're adjusting. If anyone tells you something doesn't work or will never work, test it anyway. If someone tells you that their way is the only way, test it anyway. You may find yourself in relationships with people who want to tell you what's what and get in the way of your experiments. You may even find that you think you have something perfected, so you don't have to pay attention and you can afford to slack off in your experiments. I encourage you to stay studious in your experiments. With practice, it only gets better. You have to find ways to test yourself. Begin, go slow, rest, don't stop, and repeat. It only gets better. Reading and writing or staying studious. Reading helps me find ideas to experiment with. It also gives me new perspectives on ideas I might be working through, be they physical, mental, or spiritual ideas. I read, I write. I test, I write. I adjust, I write. Currently, I'm writing less and prefer to use mental notes and noting internally the feeling of a thing. This is highly personal and hard to communicate properly, and you're going to have to pay close attention to yourself and note for yourself how you personally feel cognitively, physically, and emotionally. Building, seeing my work. Seeing my work appeals to me, seeing how things develop. Putting my mind, body, and spirit into something and watching it grow. Building structures takes physical strength and mental focus and creativity and craftsmanship. Building lesson plans or training plans lets me put my physical experiments to task and see how they pan out. Being able to build something gives me confidence that I will always be able to make something happen, be able to contribute if I need to. When I build something for someone else, I see it as a blessing for them, and I pay it the respect it deserves. Sharing. Personally, I see these lessons as blessings, and I enjoy sharing them with people who will use them. I know I'm doing my thing when I see somebody gain results from what I've shared with them. I've learned to be more discerning with who I share personal energy with, and you have to get around people who truly want to see you blessed and who can handle being blessed by your presence. Being open to be shared with allows for more experiences, more experiments, more to learn. No excuses. We've all heard it. Though we didn't have good food, I ate as good as I could until I could eat better. I eat better now. I don't make eating a weird thing at all. I don't allow mental baggage to be consumed with my food. I enjoy my food. And I don't make excuses to get weird about food. Nothing has ever stopped me from continuing training. I've had injuries in my life. I've had no access to gyms. I've been homeless with nowhere to go, and I still get my work in. I don't allow excuses towards distraction or getting tangled up in things that aren't my concern. I'm focused. If I do get distracted, I don't use that as an excuse to stay distracted or as an excuse to get down on myself and lose energy or momentum. Joy and presence. This is another highly personal view, and so it's hard to describe. When I'm practicing these things, I sleep better. I wake up with calm and intent. I'm full of energy. I move through my day more fluid. I'm less distracted, and I am in the moment. Conversations, physical tasks, mental tasks, moral tasks, my mind, body, and spirit enjoy the fluidity. It's that corny saying, nothing tastes as good as feeling good feels. Also, I'm not thinking about bullies from school, so my jaw isn't clenched. I'm not thinking about some perceived physical or mental flaw, and so my back isn't hunched. I'm not arguing with anyone in my head, so my shoulders aren't tight and my brows aren't wrinkled. All that stuff is gone. All of that energy that could be wasted is poured into this moment, this breath, this balance, this movement, and this feeling. And all of this, food and water, meditation and mental practices, martial arts and bodyweight movements, including running, work that feeds my spirit, reading and writing, experimenting, building, sharing, no excuses, joy, and presence. These, in my observation, make me able to pour an extraordinary amount into living as I see fit. I'm encouraging you to comment, see fit. Final message, train because you love it. Train in a way that excites you. Share what you learn. Keep evolving. That's how you build a body and mind that can go the distance. Once again, I'm Coach Brian with Northwest Elite Spirit, the channel you come to train your mind, body, and spirit. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do that now and make sure to ring that notification bell to stay up to date on all of my newest releases. This has been how I stay shredded at 47 years old, or 47 and shredded. If you found this video interesting and helpful, give it a like. Comment your thoughts below, share with like-minded individuals, and as always, practice. You can find my books, The ABCs of Strength and Endurance and Running Made Easy, on Amazon and Kindle. Thank you.